portion of First Registrars and Investor Services Limited free educational webinar on navigating corporate governance, best practices for compliance. I am Abiola Akonbi, Head Freeze Company Secretary and Probate Services, and I'm thrilled to be your host for today. With me is Mrs. Ikelomo Mbakogo.
Thank you for having me.
She's the Head Secretarial Services, First Registrars and Investor Services Limited. It's our honor, and we are very, very excited to have with us a distinguished guest, Mrs. Abiola Laseinde. She's the CEO, Edniesal Consulting, and Convener, the CIO and C-Suite projects. The CIO and C-Suite Project Africa, and an award-winning legal and business executive with over 20 years of multi-sectoral experience spanning manufacturing, banking, extractive industries, and asset management. As the founder and CEO of Edniesal Consulting, Abiola leads strategic advisory services in governance, regulatory compliance, corporate innovation, business development, and event management for clients across multiple sectors in Africa. Our work is grounded in ethical leadership and a deep commitment to inclusive innovation. She's also the convener of the CIO and C-Suite Awards Africa, the continent's premier platform celebrating excellence in technological leadership, and the founder of the CIO and C-Suite Club Africa, a fast-growing network of over 1,000 senior technology executives and decision makers committed to shaping Africa's digital future. She's an established person in the Tech and Leadership Network, and as a strategic platform for women in tech and leadership, she seeks to accelerate conversation on digital transformation of Africa. Throughout her distinguished career, Abiola has demonstrated expertise in corporate governance, regulatory compliance, business ethics, policy formulation, and strategic development. She has held several senior leadership roles, including Group General Counsel and Head of Corporate Services at PZ Africa.
What's going on?
Regulatory, government affairs, sustainability, and asset management operations across Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya. She has served as the Executive Secretary of PZ Foundation, spearheading the group's Good for Business, G4B Sustainability and Community Impact Strategy. She was the Group Legal Director and Company Secretary of the Romulus Owners of Petrolux Oil and Gas. Her legal background includes notable roles such as Legal Counsel West Africa and Deputy Company Secretary at Cadbury PLC and Cadbury Ghana, as well as practical experience with Bayo Shotade and Co., DN Mayor PLC, UBA Trustees, and Multiverse Resources PLC. Abiola is a certified trainer with International Finance Corporation, IFC, a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators UK, and a fellow and former member of the Governing Council of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. She has held leadership roles in several non-profit and professional organizations, including former chairman of the ICSAN Lagos chapter, former PRO of the International Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA Nigeria, and the immediate past president of Caring currently serves on the board of the Strap and Safe Child Foundation, which advocates for child safety in schools, at home, and on the road. Abiola Laseinde is widely regarded as one of Africa's leading voices in corporate governance and digital transformation, and she continues to inspire a new generation of leaders across various sectors. Today, drawing from my extensive expertise as a legal practitioner and governance professional, she will share invaluable insights on our topic. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mrs. Abiola Laseinde. You are welcome, madam.
Good morning, distinguished ladies
You
and
have such a
gentlemen. I hope you can
beautiful
hear me.
and wonderful profile that would
Thank
intimidate
you.
anyone. Just going through your profile, what you have been able to accomplish over your career, and it's just
Thank you
a
so
great
much.
privilege to have you here with us today. So thank you so very much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Would you like to just
Thank you, Miss
say one
Modupe.
or two
Thank
things
you.
to our audience before we go on?
Can you hear me? I've actually had issues with audio. Hear you for the most part. I just thought of ears now. That's I'm your. But do you hear me? Can you confirm that I'm being heard? Can anybody hear me?
Thank
Oh
you so
dear.
very much.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Thank you so very much, Biola. You are
Can you,
very welcome to this edition of our webinar.
huh?
Now, our topic, like
Is there a
we've
Wi-Fi I'm using?
already
Is the
mentioned,
audio?
yes, we can hear you now. Yeah,
Can,
initially we
you
didn't hear
can
you, but
hear me?
now we can hear you. So, like
Okay.
we said, our topic for this webinar is navigating corporate governance, best practices for compliance. And as a legal practitioner, I know that governance is a major aspect of your work, um, in ensuring that the the companies that you serve are well positioned in their various industries to deliver on the mandates that they have in terms of productivity, serving their customers, and ensuring that they meet up with whatever legal and regulatory requirements their their work requires from them. Now, Abiola, would you like to speak to the topic, and then from there we ensure that as we go on, our various viewers can, you know, get to learn what corporate governance is and ask their questions as we go on. So, viewers, I would like to suggest that you hold on. Let Abiola deliver her paper, and once she's done, then you can ask your questions. If you have your questions, put them down. We'll take them one after the other after she has spoken to her paper. Thank you so very much. So, Biola, you have the floor.
Thank you. Please confirm you can hear me. Hello.
You have the floor.
I'm actually talking.
Can you hear us?
Yes,
Can you hear us?
I
Hello,
can.
we can hear you now. Please go on.
You can hear me now?
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go on.
You can hear me now. I don't know what's going on.
Yes, we can. Please go on with your presentation.
You can hear me. Okay. Sorry for the hiccups. Good morning again, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to the first registering for having me at this webinar. It's a great honor to be able to speak, share knowledge, and also learn from the audience because it's always good to have an open mind, and the ability to share knowledge is all about giving and taking. So it's a conversation we're having this morning, like our madam modulate that foundation. So please feel free to drop your questions, comments, and your own perspective on the things we'll be talking about. Please let me know if you can hear me. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. Please go on.
This morning, we are talking about corporate governance, navigating governance, and of course, imbibing best practices for clients. And to be honest, I'll start by saying that governance has to be an acculturation process if we are to make any meaningful interpretation of it. It has to be a lifestyle. It has to be in our DNA. It has to move from just being a box ticking process to what we breathe, to what we see, to what we are intentional about. And it goes beyond goes beyond regulations. It sits at the core of cultural makeup as an organization. So I would like that to be an opening statement resonates with us. What is corporate governance? I've just said that it has to become a culture. It has to become an acculturation process. What this simply means is something we imbibe as a way of life, not just because we want to avoid penalties and fines and sanctions, but truly it lives in our hearts. So this morning, I will just be walking us through some of the fundamental principles of corporate governance. Please, can I have my slide up? The media team, please put up my slides. Am I still being heard? Hello.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, you are being heard. Your slide will come up in a moment. Why is the slide not showing?
Who you are, it has to speak to your core. And it involves a set of relationships between the company's stakeholders. There's a spectrum that you can cascade into the management, into the board, the shareholders, and the entire touch point of a company's value chain. So if you're looking at corporate governance in isolation, that means you haven't even started. If you're looking at it as, oh, is management's responsibility or is only the board's strategic direction, then we will not really attain the full potentials or the full effectiveness of corporate governance. It has to be every touch point within an organization's ecosystem. So when we look at, for instance, your vendors management, your relationship management with distributors, it has to have some bearing. It has to show the picture of what corporate governance looks like for your organization. So let's keep that as an important point to say that corporate governance goes through our entire fabric as an organization. We're looking at the relationships between the company's management, the board, the shareholders, his customers, his clients, his distributors, the entire value chain is what corporate governance should speak to. And if then if to provide a structure through which the objectives of the company are not only set, but they can be attained. So is the foundation, the building blocks to a or there's an aspect of corporate governance that also speaks on performance. So you can have the best of all this world, implementation of your strategy, monitoring, tracking, and eventually performance coming out strongly based on this structure. Corporate governance is the framework of roles, relationships, authority is exercised in corporations. It encompasses various mechanisms. These mechanisms speak to how a company is governed, how it is managed, and these are also held to account, right? These principles will help those charged with governance to deliver on this. So, in summary, corporate governance entails rigorous oversight of financial risk, ethical conduct, and the company is able to embed this deeply in the organizational. Like I said, that is a process of acculturation, right? That is the biggest thrust of corporate governance now. We've moved from the various dimensions of corporate governance when it used to be like an entirely taking exercise. It has driven this narrative and the reorientation we've had. We've seen corporate failures. We've seen organizations that we admire, that we love, shareholders at crumble like a pack of cookies. Governance has moved beyond just compliance and ticking the box to a process that has become um, embedded in our DNA, the corporate DNA of a so what are the foundations of corporate governance in an organization, right? We have various, but the key ones that we are very comfortable to talk about and that are very easy to implement, not just easy, but they are proven principles, they are proven dynamics that will ensure that in the effort to build a strong corporate governance framework, right? These are absolute must have. There must be a process or a principle of accountability. The management must be accountable to the board, and the board will be accountable to the shareholders and other stakeholders of the company. Be clear, full, and closure of decisions, performance, which is transparency. With transparency, with trust, right? While what? While secrecy and hiding information will take away from trust. So transparency is key. Fairness is also a key principle. All stakeholders, especially our minority shareholders, be seen and treated fairly. Then the principle of responsibility should act with your skill, diligence, and they must always put the company's interest at heart. I want to pause there to just ensure that my audio is still on. Please confirm that I'm still being heard. Odupe, can you still hear me? Hello, can
Yes, we can
anybody
hear you.
hear me? Okay, did you lose me at any point?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome, thank you. Then there be
Yes, we
independence.
can hear you.
Independence should
Go on.
be an appropriate mix of your executive and non-executive.
Yes, we
So
can hear you.
now there, thank you, thank you. I can hear you too. You can still hear me. Hear me, please. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My slide is off, but let me just keep talking. There must be integrity and, of course, risk management. Any venture that
Yes, we
is
can
worth
hear you. Go on.
undertaking, we should always examine the full spectrum about profit, about process, or the people. To also leave that venture at a country like ours. The only thing you're sure about is today, right? We have a country that policies are being churned by the hour as charged with governance. We need to be effective gatekeepers to help cause core and its KPIs, the objective of the company. While those of us charged with governance have that responsibility to ensure that distractions known are managed. That's what risk management speaks to. And I'm dwelling on this because it's almost fundamental to the sustainability of a company. If the company were to enshrine all these principles and risk management is left out, in my experience, it could type of the company's profitability. It could shake the foundation of the company. So while we're looking at stability, fairness, responsibility, independence, integrity, risk management is also at the core of corporate governance. So the board must ensure the existence and implementation of an enterprise risk management framework, and we should all be involved in this. Should help to shape that narrative, what the policy implementation looks like, and above all, take the responsibility to monitor and track development within this bucket. Now we move on to the finance framework here. Nigeria is a peculiar country. We have multi-layered regulatory systems by legislation guidelines, and we cannot ignore them. They are the reason why our companies are thriving. They are the reason why we are able to invest with ease, to a very large extent. And this cannot be ignored. This corporate governance framework, how are they backed by the codes, legislations, and of course guidelines in Nigeria? We have the Companies and Allied Matters Act. We have the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act. We have the Insurance Act, the Pension Reform Act, and the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria Act. All of these are critical regulations that have various dimensions, right? Some of them they are comply or explain. Some of them they are a must have. You would have to explain why you're not lying. Some, if we don't comply, of course, will be sanctioned. And those are the distractions I was talking about, that those of us charged with governance must ensure that have all of this on the dashboard. We're ensuring that our company clients and we even go overboard, right? So look at this current slide where we have a dimension of what it means For look at a code of corporate governance 18, as well as the CA guidelines for banks and other financial institutions, right? For instance, for a board composition, the NCC code says a majority of our net and one independent director. And for the CBN guideline, we have seven directors, at least two independent nets, and a minimum of one female director. We can see the various dimensions in the, the guidelines. But responsible company, right, we should be looking at not just meeting the minimum moments. If number our board agrees, if our budget, our overall plan also accommodates this, we should be able to go above the minimum. We should be able to demonstrate the fact that we don't just want to be a box ticking um, company where we just want to go with the minimum, but we're actually grounded in corporate governance. So this is what this slide talks about. This is what is showing us that we can do it as long as buys into this vision for us to be heavily regulated as a company, and we don't want to get too many external interference in auditing, and we can showcase ourselves as a board that believes that corporate governance is at the core of its operation. So the summary of all of this is that are not only we're not looking at the key difference, but we're looking at the hard law, we're looking at the soft law, and we're taking a middle ground that will help us to be a company that is that can thrive on corporate governance, be at its core. They may not sanction or delist us, and we impose fines, suspension actions. For diversity, for instance, the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance encourages diversity, but for guidelines is we can do a mix and match of this, like we are seeing recently that companies, those who have modest corporate governance even in the past, they are now in this. We see appointing for the history of the company a director. I am this achievement, and is also going round. We are seeing the public sectors also displaying this, and the concept of diversity. Some are even going outside. They're imbibing the ESG principles in their actions, the environment, social, and governance space. We are reducing our carbon footprint. We are, the influence of the foreign direct investment, those that we want to attract to Nigeria. We're going, scaling up the conversation around what we can do differently under the corporate governance. So we move on quickly. I hope I'm still being heard. I'm just conscious of the fact that I don't want to end up speaking to myself. Can anybody confirm that I'm still being heard? But are you there? Hello?
Yes, you are being heard. Please go on.
Okay.
You are being heard, please.
Okay.
We can
Thank
hear
you.
you.
Okay.
We can hear
Now
you.
we're moving on to the roles and responsibility board, the executive
We can hear you.
management,
We can
and
hear
the
you.
board committees. Thank you for that confirmation. We're moving on to the roles and responsibilities of the board, the executive management, and the committees. These are the group, right, that are primarily charged with and the successful execution of a governance framework depends on this set of stakeholders, right? You can't take the board out of a successful governance. implementation framework. Executive management, these are the director day-to-day implementation templates and mandates, and of course, the duties of the board. And extending that further, those who are within the employment cadre of the company. And for me, it's not just about leaving this responsibility to the key stakeholders who are actually directly charged, but it's about a process to communicate, transmit these values across the entire spectrum of the company. Remember, my open to us was that we need to move from the box ticking framework to a process of acculturation where it sits at the core of our culture, right? But let's look at the board of directors. Their primary responsibility or oversight for the implementation and in corporate governance. So the board has strategic and overall policy direction of an organization. They look at the evaluation of executive management, and of course, they hold them accountable for performance. Their entire responsibilities are usually articulated in the board charters, which will be approved by the board and then the regulatory authorities. Oversight over activities and procedures, such planning, ensuring of an effective internal control systems, establishing a code of business ethics, and setting the tone for ethical culture. These are strategic mandates that the board needs to own. And for those who are supporting the board process, it is compulsory for us to have a system to track and ensure all of these mandates well implemented. The board will have committees also supporting it, and, and most public companies, especially, there are certain committees that are mandatory. The audit committee, which is expected to focus on financial reporting integrity and internal controls. The risk committee, which oversees the enterprise-wide risk management framework. We have the nomination and governance committee. They address the board issues like composition, succession planning, and of course, they are responsible for the overall governance framework of an organization. We have the remuneration committee. Their job is to ensure a fair, transparent, and responsible compensation policies that will align with performance management culture of that organization. And we have various regulatory authorities with the general oversight. Then we move on to executive management. They run the company's day-to-day KPIs and operations, and their roles also involves of the board directives and strategic initiatives. So you can see, like I said earlier, that there is this get the spectrum of having the board, the committees, and admin. But it is also the responsibility of these three categories to ensure that the message is transmitted. There's a strong cascade of this message through various platforms. Now, when I was with Cadbury, and Cadbury was coming out of the woods, there was something that I can't even forget we started doing because values needed to be communicated. There was a stronger corporate governance framework, and Cadbury, through the HR department, started what we call a champion cascade session, right? Every Friday. I mean, for the longest time, for my duration there, we were having this every Friday until pep talk on the various values of the organization. This was a compulsory 30 minutes timeout for everyone on a Friday. So whether you're an old employee, a new employee, a contractor, even a visitor, you will have to compulsorily sit at a pep talk every Friday for 15 minutes max 20 minutes where you are being reminded about the company's culture, business ethics, ways of values. And it got to a point where these were even being transmitted to drama. Some department made it really interesting. And some of those values resonate with me till today because they're not just book knowledge, but they were demonstrated. We were part of shaping that culture of learning, unlearning, and relearning. So that was that an organization that was reputable for that was highly regarded as a corporate governance of firm was able to cascade those values so that it's not just sitting with the board, it's committee or executive management. So it got to a point where we would do drama skits. There was a period where everybody got creative, and these values were, cascaded through various media that would you would just have a spot right in the pie. You'll be able to pick something that you can even take back home, take outside of work. Like I remember back in the day then, if we're going to visit organizations, especially the public space, you will just remember drama skits where the value around not in conversations that can, get you into a position of compromise. You just remember something someone said or the way it was dramatized. Are you able to engage your stakeholders to that level to keep them abreast of how you are evolving as a company that holds corporate governance at its core, and at the same time managing relationship? We believe that relationship is the currency we spend, right? Relationship is the currency we spend. So we need to learn other ways to establish relationship, manage relationship, and of course leverage relationship. So those are values that we can just the entire employee framework for any employee management framework for any organization. Okay, I think I spoke too soon. I just spoke about relationship, and now we're looking at the stakeholder engagement and transparency. Transparency matters because it sits at the core of corporate governance, like we have demonstrated earlier. And of course, managing relationship, which is, the stakeholder engagement. Stakeholders engagement is, in fact, a topic that we could talk about for another 30, 40 minutes because it's important to be able to identify, categorize, and of course, manage stakeholders and their diverse needs. We need to be able to unveil the real critical stakeholders of an organization in its entire value chain or them, and how one set of stakeholders, the kind of treatment you dish out, particular season of the company's life cycle, how you categorize your stakeholders into the important and urgent, into the medium term, into the low bucket where all you're just doing is just managing. There are stakeholders that will help you on a critical path to success. Those that you absolutely need their support, their cooperation during a particular life cycle of a company. And there are those that you can't even afford to ignore, like your shareholders, whether they are visible or not. So it's very important to make inclusive decisions with stakeholders engagement. This involves our shareholders, our employees, our regulators, our customers, the community where the business is being done, especially for manufacturers, those who have a lot of operations that could affect their community. We remember that back in the day, communities, we call them the oil communities, where our oil exploration was being done. After a while, the youth of such communities got restless and they started making life unbearable for the companies who were doing this oil. Like, we know the stories, and now we have a bit of calm around such because companies have now revamped their stakeholders engagement strategy to ensure that you're not just shutting down a particular category or a particular group. So it's very important. Then risk anticipation. I think I spoke elaborately about that when we're looking at the principles of corporate governance. It's something that we can't afford to miss out. We need to keep identifying concerns early. That's the magic word. And we need to take a proactive position supporting our organizations. We need to strengthen the trust, right, within all of these relationships and the stakeholders we're managing. We need to promote long term relationship and reputational strength. I've spoken elaborately about transparency. Okay, I'm going to take a pause again. Am I still being heard? I'm waiting for an answer. Am I still being heard?
Yes, you are.
All right. So quickly, we'll move on to the regulatory
Yes, you are being
compliance
heard.
framework in Nigeria. Okay, and then we'll start by,
Yes, you are being heard.
okay, thank you, Modupe. We'll start by an overview of our key corporate governance regulators in Nigeria. We have the CBN. It regulates and supervises the Nigerian financial sector, including monetary policy, financial stability, and banking operations. We have the Security and Exchange Commission, which oversees all capital markets operations, ensuring that investors are protected. There is fair trading, there are fair trading practices, and of course, regulating security transactions. We have the NDIC, the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Commission. It provides deposit protection and it promotes stability in the banking system through the insurance of deposit liabilities. And of course, the Corporate Affairs Commission regulates the establishment of companies, management of companies, regulatory filings, and corporate governance disclosures. The NFIU monitors financial transactions for suspicious activities, and of course, the FCN, the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, sets standards for reporting and it encourages best practices for corporate governance. These are key regulators for corporate governance in Nigeria. And then, if we're looking at the obligations of our organization towards this regulatory organizations, we have the regulatory approval to operate. We have the continuous compliance with license terms, the anti-money laundering compliance, the know your customer and due diligence, internal policies, training. These are obligations of organizations that we can't ignore. Otherwise, these regulators that we just talked about will come to us and then they become that um, value that we don't need. They become a distraction, and of course, we lose revenue. Our hard earned revenue just goes down in sanctions and penalties. Section is the our obligation is to safeguard our customers' data, our clients, and the people who work with us, and then implement a strong cybersecurity framework. Prudential reporting for us, which is submit periodic financial and risk report, transparent disclosure to regulators and the public, and of course, comply with the six core pillars of corporate governance that we have initiated. The next slide, please. So the key compliance challenges and risk areas in organization. We have the anti-laundering compliance risk. What this means is that our organization will continue to have issues around anti-money laundering obligations, and we need to have in place an adequate cost due diligence procedure that will help us shape the narrative around this. Right? We need to scale staff training so that we can limit the weekly and reporting of such activities. We need to put a lot of investment in creating a digital workspace that will help us to be able to monitor, track, and arrest any anti-money laundering compliant issues. Cybersecurity and data privacy risk. We also need to scale up on put some investment in ensuring that we are able to set up a cybersecurity protection framework for our companies and don't leave anything to chance. Now, now that we have the digital revolution, right, sensing and helping us to shape our narrative better, we can't to leave anything to chance, right? I know that since the Nigeria Data Protection was set up, if we take time to view this acts or the provisions with those who are able to help us analyze, we'll see that there are lots of opportunities for us to align, for us to scale up and ensure that we're able to manage any risk associated with uh, um, data privacy or cybersecurity space and the governance around this. So it's important for us not just to leave this to chance, but to ensure that all we can to tighten that space. Now, capital adequacy and liquidity risk. Nigeria is a volatile environment and it exposes a lot of organizations to vulnerabilities around, liquidity. So we need to up our capital base. We need to ensure that we are not exposed to abilities, and that is also why corporate governance and those charged governance they have a role to play. Now, corporate governance gaps, regulatory reporting challenges. These are also the key challenges and risk areas in most of our organizations. And we need to be conscious of this. We need to roll this into our management framework. More on it, Nigeria is a whole 9 yard environment. Foreign exchange, volatility, consumer protection, ESG and sustainable finance compliance. We've spoken about this earlier, that we have moved from just the ordinary corporations, but now we're integrating ESG considerations into our operations. And if we're not careful, we could limit the opportunities we have for foreign direct investment and the opportunity to attract more funds into our operations. Can we move on to the next slide? Compliance monitoring, reporting, and internal controls. Compliance monitoring is crucial for identifying and addressing potential compliance risks before they materialize into regulatory breaches or reputational damage. So we must ensure that there is a framework around how we monitor. I know for most organizations, we leave this to risk management or internal control unit, but compliance is a journey, right? And monitoring should become everybody's concern. We can't leave that to a department. That's what I always advocate, that when the sanctions come, every single unit is involved. So we must get involved. We must ensure that we are part of the narrative. We are helping our organizations to shape the narrative, and of course, monitoring and tracking success. Reporting in this context refer to the formal documentation and timely communication of compliance-related activities, findings, and breaches to both our internal and external stakeholders. For the most part, my journey has exposed me to being proactive by default. What do I mean by this? A lot of the relationships from regulators that I enjoyed while I was in, all those organizations where I supported, I realized that for the most part, it's not about them coming to you and issuing you a letter that you have um, breached a law or a regulation or a guideline. What I've seen them appreciate is you going to them to say, please, Eshemi Jeje, this is what I believe I have done wrong. Can you help me analyze it? How can I make this go away? Trust me, that has worked for me in my leadership journey and relationship management. You go to your regulators before they find you out, it makes it easier for you to be able to curtail the narrative, the bad press, and of course, the damage that might have ensued because of your lack of compliance or any other findings. So, I want to encourage you. For instance, whenever I'm in Abuja, I'm going to have a meeting or an interaction, an engagement with one regulator. You find me going on a meet and greet with the regulators that I literally don't have any business with them by default. So you won't find me just chilling in my hotel room or just, having a barbecue somewhere when I have the time. I will go, oh, good to see you, sir. Good to see you, ma. Ah, what are you here for? I came to the for an event. I came for a project, but I thought it was good to see you. And while you're having such engagement, we're very communal. You will have some intel. You're able to get some intel from those you're engaging. Ah, get ready, oh, XYZ company. We're coming for you next month. 3 months from now, we're releasing this. You people should get ready. You'll be like, what guideline? And you are able to take the intel back to your organization, and you are able to take some proactive steps because you just received the intel that your counterpart, your next colleague in another, your peer in another organization, they've not even thought about it. So heavy investment in relationship management in all of the mix. Moving on, internal controls are the backbone of a sound corporate governance framework. These include the policies, procedures, and mechanisms created by an organization to safeguard its assets, ensure the accuracy of financial records, promote operational efficiency, and of course, support compliance with laws and regulations. Now, controls may be preventive, detective, or corrective, but you want to be in the bucket where your controls are what? Preventive. And that speaks to the assurance functions and the ability to set up a proactive system to monitor. Like what I've described, you are in the neighborhood of the next neighbor's location for you is other regulators. Check in on them, get intel, and be proactive. Now, we have a few keys that we have included in the slide. The, they are I'm just going to pick on the lens of finance, right? This year, April, the Bank of Lithuania, overseeing the Revolut EU banking license, imposed 0.5 million fine on Revolut Bank for deficiencies in its anti-money laundering process. Can you imagine 0.5 million? That is what in naira I can't even imagine. That is definitely running into, millions, if not trillions of naira, if we're to look at that. So, what are the lessons of governance? Poor internal controls allow processes to falter beneath the surface. Governance gap Revolut unable to detect or remedy AML issues proactively. The fine, largest ever from authorities, underscore the regulatory expectation that fintech challenges should meet the same standards as traditional banks. This is a fintech, like our OP Only Point. So since then, Revolut has since pledged reforms and compliant upgrade. But this episode starkly illustrates how rapid growth without robust control structures can lead to costly governance steps. I don't know what First Registrar is doing with his client base and advising them adequately on imbibing corporate governance, because there's this sense that if you're a small company, you're a startup, you're in the technology space where I operate now, you know, governance, yes, we can think about it from just an perspective, but not as in corporate governance and the structures and processes. So there's there for us to advise our clients adequately. And of course, the Central Bank of Nigeria revoked Heritage Bank, because of corporate governance violation. Despite repeated interventions, the bank was unable to improve its condition, prompting regulatory action under the BOFI. And of course, it was taken over by NDIC, and this underscores the corporate governance and regulatory compliance in sustaining our financial institution. There's so many cases, but in conclusion, yeah, I would like to say that in Nigeria's rapidly evolving industrial ecosystem, governance should be more than a set of rules. It represent the system of accountability and transparency that directs and controls an organization, a strategic imperative for stable growth, and of course, maintaining public confidence in a sector vital to our national prosperity. Organization should remember that it's not just about them, but we should remember what we are contributing to the GDP of our company, of our country, the entire value chain we serve, what is from the farm to the table, and what is at stake if we're not embedding governance and compliance at the core of our institutional culture. Yeah, that will ensure that we are resilient, there is trust and long-term performance. It must be emphasizing on this as an acculturation of those of us that are charged with governance. It should be an acculturation process where it becomes a part of our DNA, our culture, our corporate DNA, and it's not just a box ticking exercise. I hope with these few points, we've been able to enunciate the core principles of corporate governance, why it is important. It's a reminder, actually, this is a reminder, I believe, and of course, the consequences of ignoring the principles of corporate governance and entrenching it as a way of life for a corporate organization. And I've also touched on the fact that for you to know this morning, you definitely see yourself as one of those charged with governance and you're ready to make a difference. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening.
Wow, thank you so much, Biola, for a well delivered take. We really appreciate the opportunity to learn from you, and I'm sure that our viewers at home have learnt one or two things about corporate governance. Governance is not just about the private sector or the public sector, it even involves how we govern ourselves as individuals, what kind of values that we hold personally in ensuring that our lives are run in a very transparent and accountable manner. So without further ado, I'm just going to dive into the questions, and viewers out there, if you have any question that you want our speaker to address, you can send them to the chat box. We'll be very happy to take your questions. But meanwhile, I would like the speaker to just give answers to a few questions that I will read from the notes that I have here.
Okay.
Now, Biola, from your experience as an accomplished legal practitioner and a governance professional, because I know you are a chartered secretary and administrator, well equipped to address issues of governance across all enterprises. Yes. So, what are the most common compliance challenges that organizations face? Going by your profile, we can see that you have experience in various industries across manufacturing, the legal sector. You've been into technology and all kinds of, you've been into, um, I don't know, I can hear some echo on the line. So would you like to just address the common compliance challenges that various sectors of the economy can face, whether it's public or in particular the private sector? The question
I
is
think the
addressing to
one key one jumping at me right now is that we take corporate governance as another set of rules that we need to comply with, and we don't see it as principles that should be embedded as part of our culture. Okay, so you see corporate organizations and those charged with governance scuttling around when there are issues. Instead of us to be proactive, instead of us to imbibe it, like on a daily basis, you're checking your, I'll call it your corporate governance water level. And in a short while, it becomes a way of life. Let me shock you. When I got the vision to run the projects I run now in the IT ecosystem, yes, I just wanted to do it for the year it started. That was during COVID, and then moved back to paid employment because it was just a vision. It wasn't premeditated. I wasn't high in IT. I wasn't even IT techie or savvy or anything. But it was a vision from God, and it was something that I just felt compelled to give back, right? So because of talking to stakeholders who wanted to partner with me, they saw merit in it. They felt it was a great initiative. They kept asking, so what are you going to call this your project? I said, I don't know. You mean you don't have a company? I was working in the company. I just thought it was a charitable initiative that I would do and I'll go back to work. So I took a break from my career as an employee. And do you know when the idea that I needed a platform, by the way, Edniesal is Laseinde spelled backward. You know that, right? It was the fastest, it was the easiest name that we could register. But what stood out was that I started a company with a full management board. So it's not a family or a pet project. And because fans, having a full management
well,
board, having a
I wasn't aware of
chairman,
that before now.
it is, Edniesal is last year. So because of that strong foundation, I believe you me, the company is thriving because of the depth of the and experiences of those who are managing it. I report to them as the CEO. I have a board meeting soon. My heart is always like because we have an auditor, we have an independent director for a company that just started like we will say Nigerian Palace, like a joke. But because the corporate governance ethos and the culture is in me, I couldn't think of anything else. I invited these people that I respect. Some of them, when I see them coming, I turn the other way if I've not done something well. So they are not my friends, right? There are people that I respect. So that is speaking to an organization that me, Jeje, I just started to say, oh, please come and help me manage this big project I don't even understand. So it's important to see governance as a way of life. It's to become part of our DNA. It has to be something we desire to scale up. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you. Is anybody there?
Yes, it has. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that answer. Now, Biola, how can organizations identify and assess compliance risk for the average organization? Yes, please. For the average organization out there, how can they identify and assess compliance risk? still there? Hello? Hello? Well, viewers, we are just going to take a break and take some adverts now while we wait for our speaker to get back online. It appears that she's gone offline. We'll be right back. Thank you. Products and services. The show. It's not showing. We'll be back. You can't change it. Hey. Hello? Hello, Biola, are you with us now? Okay, you are here. Okay, good. All right, did you hear our last question? So the question was, how can organizations identify and assess compliance risk?
Hello? Yes, I am. Mm.
Yes, we can hear you.
No, not at all. I think the network.
Okay, good. We asked the questions. The question we asked last was how organizations can identify. Okay, it's the network.
Oh, that. Thank you for that. Important. Right? It will need our and process or
How can
units
organizations identify and assess
or
compliance risk?
framework because that will give the ability to be proactive. Okay, saying that that question speaks to enhance our controls and framework.
Hello? Hello? Your network seems to be playing up. Can you still hear us? Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Hello? Are you still with us? Hello?
I am. I'm here.
Okay, good. So I'll just go to the next question and then we'll round up um, in a few minutes. But meanwhile, the crew can kindly go through the chat box and see if we have any questions there so that we can put the questions to our speaker. Okay, good. Now, Biola, would you like to
Can you
speak
hear me?
to the role of technology in enhancing and promoting corporate governance and compliance across sectors?
Unfortunately, hear me.
What
Can you hear
role
me?
does technology play? Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hello.
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Okay, you are saying
We can
what
hear
role
you.
does security play? What?
So about I asked the question about the role that technology plays in enhancing corporate. I asked what role technology plays in enhancing corporate governance and compliance.
Okay, I think I even alluded to that while I was speaking. Technology is not just an enabler, but technology has become revolutionary. I hope you hear me. Technology will help you scale up. It will help you deliver faster and smarter. Imagine technology that was infused to our board governance work during the COVID, when we all had to play and work on virtual platforms, right? The directors who never had any touch point with tech had to scale up. They had to go and learn the skill of managing Zoom, in the board pack as an electronic tab, and just getting out of the days, you know, downtime around just paying all of that. So technology is important and it's helping us. So we need to embrace technology. We need to put some investments in technology to have the corporate governance framework of the future. We need to be future forward, future thinking. We need to think about how not technology will make us moribund, will make even more difficult. How we've moved from paper, right? Reducing our print to, I mean, carbon footprint to filing electronically, exchanging and activating engagement electronically, and things looking better than how it used to be. So technology plays a huge role. The only challenge is that most organizations think technology is an investment. They don't see it as what? They see technology as, rather, they don't see it as an investment that has great return on such investment. So technology by all means should be embraced. It should be built, it should be it should be nurtured, be at the core of scaling up our corporate governance journey. I hope you heard me. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Thank you for that. Yes,
Did you hear me?
thank you for that, Biola.
Okay.
Would you like to also educate us on the? Yes, we can hear you, Biola. We can hear you. We can hear you. And we are talking about technology, and technology can as well as good as it can be, it can also be a little bit challenging sometimes. However, we just make the best of this opportunity that we have. What trends do you see about the compliance and the corporate governance and compliance in future? What are the future trends of corporate governance and compliance?
That's a very easy question. You know, we are now in the what? Is it the fifth or the fourth industrial revolution, right? And we are now getting into the area of artificial intelligence, large language machine, large LLM, robotics, and all the dimensions of an elevated technology, digital transformation world. So we need to be conscious of that and start imbibing um, initiatives and transfer practices that will leverage technology. The truth is that technology cannot displace us, right? The only people that can displace rather, are those who have not mastered how to leverage technology. Imagine the incredible things we are doing with artificial intelligence now, right? We are doing so many things with ChatGPT. We are doing so many things with robots. We are at dimension of digital transformation right before our eyes. So keep living in denial. It will just outlive us. It will take over our work. So this is my charge even to you as reputable organization. How are you leveraging technology? How you migrating your database, your cars into embracing the technology you are bringing as part of the experience. So it's inevitable. It's coming on us. There's nothing we can do about it. If we fight it, it will crush us, because technology is a beautiful bride. It's such an attractive value proposition that you cannot ignore. So for me, I'm not afraid of technology. What will scare me is for me to live in denial and not to upgrade myself to manage technology in any device, either as a tool, as an app, or as an experience. If I am not scaling up and ensuring that I'm getting into a position where I am the master of that technology, then I'll become afraid. I've answered your question. Hello?
Yes, you have. Thank you so much. And one of the viewers has sent in a question into the chat box, and the question is this: what is the remedy for organizations that are not transparent, and can these remedies be implemented?
Can you take that question again? It's not clear to me.
Hope you had that question. Okay, so this viewer would like to know what
Question, please take it again.
remedies are available for organizations that are not transparent, and can these remedies be implemented? I don't know how you want to go about answering that question.
I really don't know because there's no remedy for organizations that just make online. We are caught in the act and they are
Let
made
me
a
read it
public
again.
show.
The way the individual
Strange.
here has put it is saying, what is the remedy for organizations that are not transparent?
It's a question that is a bit easy to because there's no remedy for organizations that are not transparent. The organization has to make up its mind to become transparent. Otherwise, they will be caught in the act, right? They
Okay, and
would
put
attract
another way, maybe.
unnecessary. Hello? Hello?
We can hear you. Can you go on, please?
Yeah, I don't know how much of what I said. You was saying that I was saying that such an organization needs to stop not being transparent. Such an organization needs to scale up on transparency and accountability. And if they don't, then they'll act. Something will give way. Did you hear that?
Thank you so much, Biola. On this note, we would like to draw the curtains on this edition of our webinar, titled Navigating Corporate Governance and Best Practices for Compliance. We hope you have learned one or two things and that you, yes, we did. Yes, we did. Thank you so much, Biola. We would like to thank you for being a part of today's webinar, and we hope that you have learned one or two things. You've been able to take one or two nuggets out of all the knowledge sharing that our guest speaker has has so graciously given to us. Thank you so much for being a part of today's webinar. For further information, you may want to visit any of our social media handles. On Instagram, we are First Registrars. On X, formerly Twitter, we are First Registrars. On LinkedIn, we are First Registrars and Investor Services Limited. You may also want to go to our website, firstregistrarsnigeria.com. And if you have any further questions and information that you want to share with us, you can send your email to info@firstregistrarsnigeria.com. Thank you so very much for being a part of today's webinar. Um, as we all know, technology is something that can be both good and also can play up sometimes. It's been a very wonderful time with you today. In spite of the hiccups here and there, we hope you learned one or two things. We look forward to seeing you again next time. So on behalf of First Registrars and Investor Services Limited, we would like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to Mrs. Abiola Laseinde, the CEO of Edniesal Consulting, and the Convener, the CIO and C-Suite Project Africa. We appreciate your time and the knowledge that you have shared with us. We look forward to having you with us some other time. God bless you and have a wonderful day. Thank you.